Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we'll be discussing a handful of villains from the Harry Potter series that were just plain bad at being bad. As the wizarding world of Harry Potter is set in a fantasy universe in which a young boy discovers he's a wizard who was, as a mere infant, responsible for the downfall of the most evil dark wizard the world had ever known, it's not all that surprising that throughout the series, Harry Potter encounters many other witches and wizards who would wish him harm. From those who loyally followed Lord Voldemort, the wizard he inadvertently took down with the power of his mother's love, to the less evil but no less menacing bullies of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, there were a lot of people who wished to hurt Harry and his friends during their 7-year journey through wizarding school and beyond. And while some of these individuals were incredibly evil, beyond any shadow of a doubt, people capable of doing appalling things in the name of their beliefs or thirst for power, some were, well, how shall I put this, simply not very good at being bad. And so, in today's video, I'll be taking you through my picks for the top 5 most ineffective villains of the series, starting with 1. Argus Filch. The caretaker of Hogwarts Castle may not be one of the first people who comes to mind when you think of villains within the wizarding world of Harry Potter. And yet, aside from he who shall not be named, he's actually one of the very first antagonists that Harry faces. Of course, I'm certainly not suggesting that Argus Filch and his mangy cat, Mrs. Norris, were evil, especially not to the extent of the Dark Lord. And I do truly believe that Mr. Filch had the school's best interests at heart. But he was definitely not an ally of the students who attended the great institution of Hogwarts. More specifically, he has always been very intent on catching them out of bed after hours, for which they could have been expelled. Considering this was one of the greater threats presented in the first few installments of the series, I would say that makes Filch somewhat of a villain, at least in the eyes of Harry, Ron, and especially Hermione. However, Filch was never very good at actually catching Harry, his friends, or even other students for that matter. Consider the fact that Fred and George Weasley were able to steal the Marauders map right out from his office, from a drawer marked confiscated and highly dangerous, not to mention all the mischief and unsanctioned adventures that Harry, Ron, and Hermione got up to on school grounds over the years, like accessing the restricted area of the castle where the Philosopher's Stone was hidden and breaking into the Chamber of Secrets. Not once was Argus Filch able to stop any of this. 2. Quirrell. Professor Quirrell is one of those bad guys that you just know isn't going to succeed right from the very first time you meet him. Described as skittish and affecting a bit of stutter, the once ambitious Quirrell became possessed by Voldemort while attempting to seek out the Dark Lord's power in the wilderness of Albania. This bit of bad luck resulted in him returning to Hogwarts only to live as Voldemort's giant meat puppet for the better part of the 1991 to 1992 school year. His instructions from the Dark Lord were clear: get the Philosopher's Stone and fatally harm Harry Potter. One of Quirrell's first attempts to carry out the Dark Lord's wishes was when he let a troll into the castle in an effort to retrieve the stone. Sadly for him, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, who were hapless first years at the time, managed to defeat said troll, thwarting Quirrell's attempt at a distraction. He failed yet again when it came to the hurt Harry Potter part of the plan, specifically when he tried to knock Harry off his broom during a school Quidditch match using some sort of broom jinx. With Professor Snape muttering the counter curse close by, and Hermione eventually lighting Snape's robes on fire, Quirrell did not succeed. Finally, Quirrell failed again once more, and quite spectacularly so, near the end of the school year when he was unable to prevent Harry from getting to the Philosopher's Stone before him and Voldemort. Sadly for Quirrell, this error also resulted in his untimely death. 3. Lucius Malfoy. Now, no one would argue that Lucius Malfoy, the prejudiced, pompous father of Draco Malfoy, was a good guy. As a devout, pure-blood supremacist, follower of Voldemort and abuser of his house elf Dobby, he was obviously quite the opposite of good. Lucius Malfoy was a villain, even if he wasn't very good at it. Let's consider all the ways in which he failed as a bad guy. To start with, he attempted to use students to reopen the Chamber of Secrets by slipping Tom Riddle's diary, which turned out to be a Horcrux, into Ginny Weasley's things while shopping in Diagon Alley before the start of the 1992 school year. And while Ginny did open the chamber at the request of the Horcrux, this did not lead to a mass genocide of Muggle-born students at Hogwarts, which is presumably the outcome Lucius had believed could happen if the chamber was successfully opened. Instead, the opening of the Chamber of Secrets led to Harry Potter and his friends killing the basilisk inside and destroying the Horcrux. Yikes. Of course, the way this series of events unfolded made Lucius rather frustrated, and in a moment of irritation, Harry was able to distract him to the point that he then handed a piece of clothing, a dirty sock, to Dobby, his house elf, effectively freeing him from indentured servitude to the Malfoy family. Lucius's final failing as a villain was clearly his biggest. He let Voldemort down, somewhat repeatedly. Allowing the Dark Lord's Horcrux to be destroyed obviously didn't help, but Lucius was also accused of having abandoned the Dark Lord after he fell from power in 1981. In any case, at least during Harry's tenure at Hogwarts, Lucius Malfoy did not seem to have much success at being a villain. 4. Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle, but mostly Vincent Crabbe. As the two lackeys who were almost always by Draco Malfoy's side during their time at Hogwarts, Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle certainly contributed to the villainy within the castle over the years. In addition to assisting Draco in being a major bully towards other students, these two were also inducted into Dolores Umbridge's inquisitorial squad during their 5th year. While members of this elite task force, Crabbe and Goyle both practiced abusing their power, so that when Death Eaters took over the school 2 years later, they were ready and willing to be involved in despicable tasks like torturing first years with the Cruciatus Curse. However, even though for many years it seemed as though Crabbe and Goyle were of one mind, especially since apart neither seemed to have a whole brain, in the end, Vincent and Gregory both failed at being villains, but for two very different reasons. While Goyle refused to actually try to kill Harry, Ron, and Hermione during the Battle of Hogwarts, suggesting that perhaps there was hope for him yet, Crabbe literally put a stop to his own bad behavior by accidentally killing himself. After he haphazardly cast a fiend fire curse through the Room of Requirement, the flames engulfed the entire space, which everyone escaped except Goyle. So Goyle killed himself with his own curse. Doesn't exactly mark him as a successful villain, now does it? 5. Gilderoy Lockhart. Hogwarts' 1992 Defense Against the Dark Arts professor was none other than Gilderoy Lockhart, a world-famous wizard who had written several books on his supposed heroic acts and encounters with dangerous magical creatures. In addition to his recognition as a celebrity, Lockhart was also thrilled to have received such prestigious awards like the Order of Merlin, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award, multiple times in a row. Of course, Gilderoy Lockhart was a huge fraud and had actually stolen the majority of the accounts he had written about and made his fame and fortune on using his incredibly effective memory charm. While Lockhart was ready to use this same charm on Harry and Ron, two 12-year-old students, in order to keep his reputation and lies intact, he was hit with its own spell when the broken wand he had stolen from Ron backfired on him. Gilderoy Lockhart then lived out his days as a permanent resident of St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. So, in the end, he was not so much of a success at, well, anything. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. What did you think? Do you agree with my picks, or did I miss any obvious examples? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.